Good evening, beautiful people of planet Earth and all sentient beings and all other interdimensional entities across this majestic and impossible to imagine and actually define multiverses. All hail to Creator or all that is, was and ever shall be, and to perpetuity ad infinitum, and so on and so forth. I've had a very quiet day, as I had my wild night of dancing last night. Last night I danced for and with my beautiful and handsome, talented friends and the band. We don't say alter egos. That's next week, people are there. Ramjet is who I danced for last night. Oh my goodness, you can tell I'm tired. I had a wonderful time though. And there was just so much love in the room, so much love and sweetness and kindness. And I got to mosh side by side with my friend Alex, who's very, very tall. He reminds me of my old friend Pedro, roughly the same height and the same level of wildness and sweetness in a very tall Viking physical configuration, but a sweet man. And he danced with his beautiful partner Stacey, and he made sure that he was in between her and I, so he and I could do our moshing. But I didn't do the 360-degree twirl. I was good. I've been so good. Aren't I good? It's amazing how good you can be when you suffer the ignominies and the defeat of damaging your own neck. But anyway, I've been a very good mama T. So you can all relax and breathe free, that I'm not being completely obstreperous and difficult and silly. But I got into my trance-like zone a few times actually. I moved in and out of it. It was almost like being lulled on a beautiful gentle wave at Byron Bay, like that time Jared and I went many years ago, and it was a gentle swell, and we just lay down and we just literally were lulled as though in a hammock as the waves gently sort of caressed us and bobbed us ever so sweetly and gently up and down. It was that kind of sensation sort of moved into my trance, and then I would open my eyes and look up, and there was my wonderful friend Juddy looking at me while playing his guitar, just keeping a brotherly eye over me. And thank you, my Juddy. Thank you for protecting Mama T, the Tanya, the psychedelic dream room, in her dance, because it can be can get a bit not dangerous, but a bit fraught at times. There were a few annoyances during the night, because there always is. Like, let's be fair here. It's never a complete perfect recipe. There's always a few little flies in the ointment. So there was a very passionate woman dancing beside me with two men either side of her, and they just kept moving further and further and encroaching into me, to the point where I just wanted to just kind of slam dunk them off me. But I was in a good mood, and I realised they were just excited. But they were just the very attractive younger woman in her late 30s was just pressing into me. So I sort of showed her a look a few times, but she was quite drunk or overly excited and didn't really get my non-verbal cues. So eventually I sat down because I needed a break from the encroachment on my physicality, on my body autonomy. And then she kind of said, "Why aren't you dancing?" As if I'm, her lackey or her performing monkey. I just shot her a look. Anyway, they left after that. Dear goddess, I should have said it out earlier. But anyway, look, they weren't nasty. They were just energetically oppressive and demanding. And, you get oppressive and demanding with the Mama T, the Mama Tanya. Well, yeah, that's what Mama T stands for. The Mama Tanya just gets defiant and prefers not to. Like the story yesterday. Bartleby, yes. I just preferred not to. In the most polite kind of way. Anyway, so there was a man early in the night who moved in so close to me with his friend that he was actually almost sitting on top of me. And then when I got up to move or to get a drink, I came back, he was sitting in my seat, like in that part of the couch where I had actually been sitting. I don't know what that was about. Some kind of weird fucking domination tactic, as if he's in high school still. I didn't go to school with boys. I went to a single-sex girls' school. It's probably why I'm a bit fucked up on the head, actually, because I didn't have the pubescent, training of dealing with prepubescent or newly pubescent or newly manifesting boys and learn how to handle them in the coalface. Is it good or is it bad that I was kept safe from that for 5 years? I think in some ways it's bad because I didn't learn a lot of the necessary social skills. But I grew up with a lot of men in my family who were fucking predators, so the social skills I learnt was how to tell someone to fuck off politely, sometimes not politely either. So I looked at this very handsome younger man, old enough to be my son, of course. Don't know what's got into the young men, why they want to oppress and invade into my body autonomy as well. It's odd. I find it very odd and confronting. Young men didn't behave like that 20 or 30 years ago. At least if they did, I wasn't conscious of it because I guess I was young too. It's very odd. I don't know if it's a post-COVIDian epoch side effect of the transmogrification or if it's just a shift in society, but inordinately young men chasing the assets of women old enough to be their mother or grandmother is alarming, to my mind anyway. I find it creepy as fuck. Anyway, I said to him, would you rob my grave as well? Didn't get it, is it? I think he was on something. He says, I just want to make sure you're happy. Which is a passive-aggressive way of saying, don't fight me, lady, because, whatever. Just want to make sure you're happy. Are you happy tonight? I went, no, you're oppressing me. You've moved in on me, and now you've taken my seat. I said, get out of my seat. I wasn't actually joking either. Because there's something wrong with me, let's face it. It's why I'm on a disability pension. But anyway, so he just sat there indulgently and stayed in what was actually my seat. I decided I didn't care. I said, I can't communicate with you anyway, young man. You're not on the same page as me. You're completely under the influence of some substance. You're barely coherent. He got up and he moved. About 5 minutes later. And he stood in front of the band, facing the stage. And he just looked at me like this. Are you happy today? That's right. The second time he asked me if I was happy, I told him very flatly that I was delirious. He said, oh, that's good. I was like, oh, dear God. I think he had to have been on something like, I don't know, MDMA. He was on some kind of love drug, and probably in his goggleitis I looked 25 and 6'2" and perfect size 10. Who knows what they're imagining in their minds when they're completely out of their minds. Handsome young man though. Like if you're going to be oppressed and harassed, at least he was a nice looking fellow. But you know, I don't value people by their looks. I value them by their souls and their couth and their ability to conduct themselves in a reasonably courteous, respectful way, and pushing themselves closer and closer actually onto my body and then taking my seat, I thought was very high school. It's the kind of thing that 10, 15 years ago I just would have slapped on the side of Sunday, but not figuratively speaking, but literally, and got him away from me. But so there was those two small annoying incidents, and but then later on in the evening, my friend Alex and Stacey arrived, and he leans over like this, looks at me, and I lean over. It's so sweet. They're so sweet, the two of them. They're a really gorgeous couple. And she was reaching to put her arm around him and accidentally got me because we're lined up like a little, trio along the seating. I said, "Oh, that's all right, Stacey." At one point, I reached up, put my arm on his shoulder, and gave him a good solid, auntie type hug because he's a nice young man. I'm very fond of both of them, but I'm very fond of him because we do the wild dancing side by side with our long blonde hair and our eyes are blue. I don't know what colour his eyes are actually. But anyway, my eyes are blue and my long blonde hair. All I ever got from you was sorrow. Sorrow. Anyway, rest in peace, David Bowie. May we never experience sorrow ever again for the rest of our natural lives. You in eternity and me still stuck here on planet Earth. Delighting in my wonderful wild night of joyous, triumphant, defiant, rebellious, but also magnanimous and inclusive and sweet wild dancing. And it was quite wonderful. Sonia left early. I don't know what happened. As she left, she screamed out, "Tanya!" And I just kind of glazed out. I don't know what that was about. She just randomly up some leaves and, oh well, she's in her own world and her own existence, living her best life. So I don't judge. I think she might have decided to go back to Irish Murphys because Bursts were playing. I'm assuming that's where she went. I don't know. Might have had to go home. But anyway, it was a wonderful night, and I feel very soul nourished and cherished and adored by my musician friends and my friends in the Brooklyn Standard Club. I feel amazing. I really do feel amazing. I had a little nap on my couch because I literally passed out because I only had 4 hours sleep this morning. Got home by about 4 and 3:30ish. No, it was nearly 4 because I had to run around trying to get to my car for about an hour. I do got it. Anyway, I think it was 4 when I went to bed because I had a hot Epsom salt bath to kind of just release all the tense muscles from 4 hours of dancing. So I needed that. And I had a cup of tea in the bath and ate some of that Florentine biscuit I made that I'm disappointed in, but I still ate it because it is what it is, people of Earth. And woke up at 8 o'clock, so astonishingly. So I've passed out on the couch for a while, and now I'm awake, and it's now 7:16 p.m. on the 7th of December 2024. And I've decided to read another story from the Penguin Book of American Short Stories. There's a couple of really long ones in the middle here that decided against, because each one's like, it's 2 or 3 videos. So I'll just randomly pick some shorter stories, so it's not such a strain on all our nerves and doesn't chew up so much of my time. Given that I'm tired, I don't know how long I'll be able to read for before I peg out. But I'm tired, but in a good way, because I had a wonderful time. And yes. So I shall read, there's an O. Henry story as well. Well, we won't read that. We'll read this one. Steve, I'll have to write it down actually, because I won't remember when I go to do the titles later on my videos. I won't remember shit. Just trying to find my post-it notes. Oh, come on. What's the matter with you, Tanya Aarons? You just, what's the matter with you? What you gonna do? How does that song go? What's the matter with you? What you gonna... shut up at your face. But anyway, Mama T's not shutting up her face. She's on the case. And she dropped things. Here we go. Green ones. Right, let's just find. Right, here we go. Oh, exhaustion is a thing. But at least I'm exhausted from living my very best life with my beautiful, artistic, talented, musical friends, being wild and carefree. And, you know, what more could you want out of life? Could want a lot more, but I'm happy with what is. I really am. And so, there's always more, but there's a hell of a lot less. And I've experienced that too in my life too, by the gods. So much less. There was so much love in the room last night that if I could have turned it into an energetic resource and spun it or wove it into gold or compressed it into diamonds, be a very rich woman indeed today. So, big Mama T smooches to Ness and Juddy and Nathan and Timmy and Katie and Luke and who else was extra loving? My friends Alex and Stacey. Who else was extra loving? Oh, it was just gorgeous. It was just gorgeous. Gorgeous. We could engorge on the gorgeousness, but not in a sexual weird way. Just saying, just how lovely it really is. So one day, if my brain completely fries, God forbid, or if I die, there will be these videos of me going on in a semi kind of not quite awake, not quite asleep, between worlds, psychedelic dreaming state, talking about the gorgeousness, and I hope they stay up for eternity, because we should have more gorgeousness amongst the bathos and the tragedy and the difficulties and the frustrations and the struggles. May there be much, much, much more gorgeousness, and may I live to co-create it with you all for many years to come. May we be blessed in all our undertakings, and may we continuously blossom and grow creatively, musically, artistically, and all whatever emanations that we can come up with from our own heart, minds, bodies, spirits and souls. And I'm really looking forward to participating in so much more of it and being able to go on about it the next day in my videos about how fucking gorgeous it all is and you all are, and you're looking at me going, oh Tony, you need to go to bed. You're just high, man. You're high on post-dance adrenal fatigue and euphoria, but that's okay, because that's a good kind of high, the only kind of high that we should really, be aiming for. And the skyline at the moment, the sun's been down for a while, but the sky is a kind of a weird, like a dark teal blue, like a darker version of my Wellington Girls College school uniform. It's a very strange colour, but it's very pretty. And if I wasn't so fucking exhausted, I'd go out dancing again tonight and just keep going, right? But I won't, because it really will kill me if I overdo it. So I have to gently parcel out my energy reserves. But by the gods, I had a wonderful time last night. I really did. So today's story, I haven't previewed it, so we're going in cold and I'll be just as surprised as you are, babies, is by Stephen Crane. I've never heard of him before. He must be an American writer, but I don't know what his style is or what he writes about. And the title is The Bride Comes to Yellow Sky. Chapter 1. The great Pullman was whirling onward with such dignity of motion that a glance from the window seemed simply to prove that the plains of Texas were pouring eastward. Vast flats of green grass, dull-hued spaces of mesquite and cactus, little groups of frame houses, woods of light and tender trees, all was sweeping into the east, sweeping over the horizon, a precipice. A newly married pair had boarded this train at San Antonio. The man's face was reddened from many days in the wind and sun, and a direct result of his new black clothes was that his brick-coloured hands were constantly performing in a more conscious fashion. From time to time he looked down respectfully at his attire. He sat with a hand on each knee like a man waiting in a barber's shop. The glances he devoted to other passengers were furtive and shy. The bride was not pretty, nor was she very young. She wore a dress of blue cashmere, with small reservations of velvet here and there, and with steel buttons abounding. She continually twisted her head to regard her puff sleeves, very stiff, high, and straight. That should have said very stiff, straight, and high. They embarrassed her. It was quite apparent that she had cooked, and that she expected to cook dutifully. The blushes caused by the careless scrutiny of some passengers as she had entered the car were strange to see upon this plain, underclass countenance, which was drawn in placid, almost emotionless lines. I suspect that what they mean by cooking is that she's expecting a baby. I think he was trying to put that rather delicately. I'm making an assumption here. They were evidently very happy. Ever been in a parlour car before? He asked, smiling with delight. No, she answered. I never was. It's fine, ain't it? Great. And then, after a while, we'll go forward to the diner and get a big layout. Finest meal in the world. Charge $1. Oh, do they? Cried the bride. Charge $1? Why, that's too much for us, ain't it, Jack? Not this trip anyhow, he answered bravely. We're going to go the whole thing. Later, he explained to her about the train. You see, it's 1,000 miles from one end of Texas to the other, and this train runs right across it and never stops but 4 times. He had the pride of an owner. He pointed out to her the dazzling fittings of the coach, and in truth, her eyes opened wider as she contemplated the sea-green figured velvet, the shining brass, silver and glass, the wood that gleamed as darkly brilliant as the surface of a pool of oil. At one end, a bronze figure sturdily held a support for a separated chamber, and at convenient places on the ceiling were frescoes in olive and silver. To the minds of the pair, their surroundings reflected the glory of their marriage that morning in San Antonio. This was the environment of their new estate, and the man's face, in particular, beamed with an elation that made him appear ridiculous to the Negro porter. This individual at times surveyed them from afar with an amused and superior grin. On other occasions, he bullied them with skill in ways that did not make it exactly plain to them that they were being bullied. He subtly used all the manners of the most unconquerable kind of snobbery. He oppressed them, but of this oppression they had small knowledge, and they speedily forgot that unfrequently a number of travellers covered them with stares of derisive enjoyment. Historically, there was supposed to be something infinitely humorous in their situation. We are due in yellow sky at 3:42, he said, looking tenderly into her eyes. Oh, are we? She said, as if she had not been aware of it. To evince surprise at her husband's statement was part of her wifely amiability. She took from a pocket a little silver watch, and as she held it before her and stared at it with a frown of attention, the new husband's face shone. I bought it in San Antonio from a friend of mine, he told her gleefully. It's 17 minutes past 12, she said, looking up at him with a kind of shy and clumsy coquetry. A passenger, noting this play, grew excessively sardonic and winked at himself in one of the numerous mirrors. I'd probably be doing the same. It's like, well, this is not my story, people of Earth. At last, they went to the dining car. 2 rows of Negro waiters in dazzling white suits surveyed their entrance with the interest and also the equanimity of men who had been forewarned. The pair fell to the lot of a waiter who happened to feel pleasure in steering them through their meal. Oh, that would have enraged me. Oh, dear goddess, never steer me through a meal, people of Earth. Eating is an art form for a berserker. Usually not particularly ladylike, to be honest, especially when I'm ravenously hungry. He viewed them with the manner of a fatherly pilot, his countenance radiant with benevolence. The patronage entwined with the ordinary deference was not palpable to them. And yet, as they returned to their coach, they showed in their faces a sense of escape. Oh, isn't that awful when you're that being condescended and patronised and snobbish, awful behaviour from people who actually paid to serve you. Ooh! Well, that enrages me when that happens. Don't do that. Don't do it. But anyway, they're newlyweds and they're happy and they're probably letting a lot of things just slide on by, babies. Just let it slide on by. Because when you're in love and you're happy, and what do you care if someone thinks they're better than you, got one up on you in some way? Who actually gives a flying fuck? In the broad scheme of things, what does any of that really matter? But anyway, we continue on with the story. To the left, miles down a long purple slope, was a little ribbon of mist where moved the keening Rio Grande. The train was approaching it at an angle, and the apex was yellow sky. Presently it was apparent that as the distance from yellow sky grew shorter, the husband became commensurately restless. His brick-red hands were more insistent in their prominence. Occasionally he was even rather absent-minded and far away when the bride leaned forward and addressed him. As a matter of truth, Jack Potter was beginning to find the shadow of a deed weigh upon him like a leaden slab. He, the town marshal of Yellow Sky, a man known, liked and feared in his corner, a prominent person, had gone to San Antonio to meet a girl he believed he loved, and there, after the usual prayers, had actually induced her to marry him without consulting Yellow Sky for any part of the transaction. He was now bringing his bride before an innocent and unsuspecting community. Of course, people in Yellow Sky married as it pleased them in accordance with a general custom, but such was Potter's thought of his duty to his friends, or of their idea of his duty, or of an unspoken form which does not control men in these matters, that he felt he was heinous. He had committed an extraordinary crime. Face to face with this girl in San Antonio and spurred by his sharp impulse, he had gone headlong over all the social hedges. At San Antonio, he was like a man hidden in the dark. A knife to sever any friendly duty, any form, was easy to his hand in that remote city. But the hour of Yellow Sky, the hour of daylight, was approaching. He knew full well that his marriage was an important thing to his town. It could only be exceeded by the burning of the new hotel. His friends would not forgive him. Frequently He had reflected upon the advisability of telling them by telegraph, but a new cowardice had been upon him. He feared to do it. And now the train was hurrying him toward a scene of amazement, glee, reproach. He glanced out of the window at the line of haze swinging slowly in toward the train. Yellow sky had a kind of brass band which played painfully to the delight of the populace. He laughed without heart as he thought of it. If the citizens could dream of his prospective arrival with his bride, they would parade the band at the station and escort them amid cheers and laughing congratulations to his adobe home. He resolved that he would use all of the devices of speed and plainscraft in making the journey from the station to his house. Once within that safe citadel, he could issue some sort of a vocal bulletin and then not go among the citizens until they had time to wear off a little of their enthusiasm. The bride looked anxiously at him. "What's worrying you, Jack?" He laughed again. "I'm not worrying, girl. I'm only thinking of yellow sky." She flushed in comprehension. A sense of mutual guilt invaded their minds and developed a finer tenderness. They looked at each other with eyes softly aglow. But Potter often laughed the same nervous laugh. The flush upon the bride's face seemed quite permanent. The traitor to the feelings of yellow sky narrowly watched the speeding landscape. "We're nearly there," he said. Presently the porter came and announced the proximity of Porter's home. He held a brush in his hand and, with all his airy superiority gone, he brushed Potter's new clothes as the latter slowly turned this way and that way. Potter fumbled out a coin and gave it to the porter as he had seen others do. It was a heavy and muscle-bound business, as that of a man shoeing his first horse. The porter took their bag and, as the train began to slow, they moved forward to the hooded platform of the car. Presently, the two engines and their long string of coaches rushed into the station of yellow sky. "They have to take water here," said Potter, from a constricted throat, and in mournful cadence as one announcing death. Before the train stopped, his eye had swept the length of the platform, and he was glad and astonished to see there was no one upon it but the station agent, who, with a slightly hurried and anxious air, was walking toward the water tanks. When the train had halted, the porter alighted first and placed in position a little temporary step. "Come on, girl," said Potter hoarsely. As he helped her down, they each laughed on a false note. He took the bag from the negro and bade his wife cling to his arm. As they slunk rapidly away, his hang-dog glance perceived that they were unloading the two trunks, and also that the station agent, far ahead, near the baggage car, had turned and was running toward him, making gestures. He laughed and groaned as he laughed when he noted the first effect of his marital bliss upon yellow sky. He gripped his wife's arm firmly to his side, and they fled. Behind him the porter stood, chuckling fatuously. Chapter 2. The California Express, on the South Ron Railway was due at yellow sky in 21 minutes. There were 6 men at the bar of the Weary Gentleman's Saloon. One was a drummer who talked a great deal and rapidly. 3 were Texans who did not care to talk at that time, and 2 were Mexican sheep herders who did not talk as a general practice in the Weary Gentleman's Saloon. The barkeeper's dog lay on the boardwalk that crossed in front of the door. His head was on his paws, and he glanced drowsily here and there with the constant vigilance of a dog that is kicked on occasion. Across the sandy street were some vivid green grass plots, so wonderful in appearance amid the sands that burned near them in a blazing sun that they caused a doubt in the mind. They exactly resembled the grass mats used to represent lawns on the stage. At the cooler end of the railway station, a man without a coat sat in a tilted chair and smoked his pipe. The fresh-cut bank of the Rio Grande circled near the town, and there could be seen beyond it a great plum-coloured plain of mesquite. Save for the busy drummer and his companions in the saloon, yellow sky was dozing. The newcomer leaned gracefully upon the bar and recited many tales with the confidence of a bard who has come upon a new field. And at the moment that the old man fell downstairs with the bureau in his arms, the old woman was coming up with 2 scuttles of coal, and of course the drummer's tale was interrupted by a young man who suddenly appeared in the open door. He cried, "Scratchy Wilson's drunk and has turned loose with both hands." The 2 Mexicans at once set down their glasses and faded out of the rear entrance of the saloon. The drummer, innocent and jocular, answered, "All right, old man, suppose he has. Come and have a drink anyhow." But the information had made such an obvious cleft in every skull in the room that the drummer was obliged to see its importance. All had become instantly morose. "Say," said he, mystified, "what is this?" His 3 companions made the introductory gesture of eloquent speech, but the young man at the door forestalled them. "It means, my friend," he answered as he came into the saloon, "that for the next 2 hours this town won't be a health resort." The barkeeper went to the door and locked and barred it. Reaching out of the window, he pulled in heavy wooden shutters and barred them. Immediately a solemn chapel-like gloom was upon the place. I've got a melody running through my head. I'm trying to think how it goes. The words. It's a popular song. It will come to me. It's been running through my head since last night, so it's a spirit message. I can hear the rhythm of the song, but I can't think of the actual fucking words. Can you believe it? Anyway, carry on, Tanya Aaron's. Carry on. So there's a chapel-like gloom was upon the place, because the song words, "Take me to the church." No, lost it. Some song that kind of reaches crescendos and then goes down and goes up. There's a rhythm to it. It's the rhythm that I'm thinking of more than the actual song and the words. Interesting. Mama T, maybe I should go out again and be wild again. Dear Goddess. The drummer was looking from one to another in the chapel-like gloom, having locked up the entire bar. But say, he cried, what is this anyhow? You don't mean there's going to be a gunfight? Don't know whether there'll be a fight or not, answered one man grimly, but there'll be some shooting, some good shooting. The young man who had warned them waved his hand. Oh, there'll be a fight fast enough if anyone wants it. Anybody can get a fight out there in the street. There's a fight just waiting. The drummer seemed to be swayed between the interest of a foreigner and a perception of personal danger. What did you say his name was? He asked. Scratchy Wilson, they answered in chorus. There's a synchronicity. I pre-booked Wilson's car parking building, but then I paid for it and everything. Then I fucking parked in the wrong car park called Secure. I had it clicked on. Neither did the person when I went there, since it's my first time here and I've prepaid. Let me in and park. And then hit me with $20 to get out of the fucking building when I finally retrieved my car after figuring out that I was in the wrong space in the wrong place. Took me 40 minutes to find the car park in my car. Dear Goddess. And everything's locked down at night, so you've got to ask them to open up the doors. Oh, what a drama. I wanted to scream out, Wilson! Because it reminded me of that, that basketball in that movie that Tom Hanks was in, being in a deserted island, and all he had was this ball that he named Wilson. I wanted to scream that out. I thought they might come and lock me up or something. But it was getting a bit fraught, people of Earth. Fucking, I leave the club at 2 and it took me till 20 to 3 to even get to my car. Going round and round circles, various different intercoms, trying to communicate and explain where I thought my car was. Very calmly, eventually I said, I think it's in a whole different car park. I think you've got it totally wrong. I said, how can that be? I've paid. You took my money. My car's meant to be here. It was me that got confused in the end. Oh, dear Goddess. This getting old thing and doing everything on your own and then coming out after dancing for 4 hours fucking exhausted. It's getting very fraught, people. I thought I was making life easier for myself by booking a car park close to the club, and it ended up even more difficult than if I'd just fucking parked at the Uptown Centre and done the 10-minute walk. But anyway, hopefully next week I'll have streamlined it, so I'll park in the right building and I'll have prepaid, and it will be a much more smoother entrance and exit out of that car park. Oh, so mote it be by the grace of all the gods, because I need this parking issue to be resolved, people. It's driving me fucking nuts. But anyway, that's the only thing that puts a little bit of a taint on my night, is the drama about the parking. And it's not safe for me to take the bus in and out for $1. I decided, so, I just have to handle it, babies. Handle it. Anyway, I don't know why all of a sudden, after all these years, it's become a drama, though. I really don't understand why it started to grind my gears. Never bothered me before. Well, I guess for years I parked. For 12 years I was at the casino, and I parked in the casino car park, which was free for dancers, and you danced after a certain time. Sometimes they'd try and hit me up, and they were quite vicious at times and nasty, and there'd be terrible scenes at the front counter at reception. But by and large, I had free parking for 12 years. So it's only just really the last few months that it's become a drama, since I couldn't park on the street where I was parking before they changed that to a taxi zone without bothering to tell anyone. Slammed me a $322 fine, which, by the way, will be completely paid off next week. So that can go into the archives of ancient history, never to be dealt with again, I hope. Dear goddess. But yeah, I've got to resolve that. Accessible close to the club parking, because it's doing this long walk and when you're exhausted and at the end of the night it's getting a bit fraught and dangerous, quite frankly. And also not necessary. I don't need to be tortured. Surely I can resolve it. Hopefully this Friday coming it'll be resolved. So Mama T will keep gnawing at it like a rat in a rat hole until it works for me babies. I'm determined, because I like to go to that club every Friday. I already said to the guy in the car park on the intercom, I said I'll be here every week from now on, which would have been fine if my car had actually been fucking parked in there. Oh, well, they got $10 for nothing. All they had to do was my frantic call at 2 a.m. or 2:15 a.m. going, I can't find where my car is and what's going on. Dear goddess. Anyway, the young man who had warned them waved his hand. Oh, he already said that. There'll be a fight just waiting. What did you say his name was? He asked the drummer. Scratchy Wilson, they answered in chorus. And will he kill anybody? What are you going to do? Does this happen often? Does he rampage around like this once a week or so? Can he break in that door? No, he can't break down the door, replied the barkeeper. He's tried it 3 times, but when he comes, you'd better lay down on the floor, stranger. He's dead sure to shoot at it, and a bullet may come through. Thereafter, the drummer kept a strict eye on the door. The time had not yet been called for him to hug the floor, but as a minor precaution, he sidled near to the wall. Will he kill anybody? He said again. The men laughed low and scornfully at the question. He's out to shoot, and he's out for trouble. Don't see any good in experimenting with him. But what do you do in a case like this? What do you do? A man responded. Why, he and Jack Potter. But in chorus the other men interrupted. Jack Potter's in San Antone. Well, who is he? What's he got to do with it? Oh, he's the town marshal. He goes out and farts Scratchy when he gets in one of these tears. Wow, said the drummer, mopping his brow. Nice job he's got. The voices had toned away to mere whisperings. The drummer wished to ask further questions, which were born of an increasing anxiety and bewilderment, but when he attempted them, the men merely looked at him with irritation and motioned him to remain silent. A tense, waiting hush was upon them. In the deep shadows of the room, their eyes shone as they listened for sounds from the street. One man made 3 gestures at the barkeeper, and the latter, moving like a ghost, handed him a glass and a bottle. The man poured a full glass of whiskey and set down the bottle noiselessly. He gulped the whiskey in a swallow and turned again toward the door in immovable silence. The drummer saw that the barkeeper, without a sound, had taken a Winchester from beneath the bar. Later, he saw this individual beckoning to him, so he tiptoed across the room. You better come with me back of the bar. No thanks, said the drummer, perspiring. I'd rather be where I can make a break for the back door. Whereupon the man of bottles made a kindly but peremptory gesture. The drummer obeyed it, and finding himself seated on a box with his head below the level of the bar, balm was laid upon his soul at sight of various zinc and copper fittings that bore a resemblance to plate armour. The barkeeper took a seat comfortably upon an adjacent box. "You see," he whispered, "this here Scratchy Wilson is a wonder with a gun, a perfect wonder. And when he goes on the war trail, we hunt our holes, naturally. He's about the last one of the old gang that used to hang out along the river here. He's a terror when he's drunk. When he's sober, he's all right, kind of simple, wouldn't hurt a fly. Nicest fellow in town. But when he's drunk, whoo!" There were periods of stillness. "I wish Jack Potter was back from San Antone," said the barkeeper. "He shot Wilson up once, in the leg, and he would sail in and pull out the kinks in this thing." Presently they heard from a distance the sound of a shot, followed by 3 wild yells. It instantly removed a bond from the men in the darkened saloon. There was a shuffling of feet. They looked at each other. "Here he comes," they said. 3. Gotta remember, there was no television in those days. Just so, you had to make your own entertainment. Sometimes it was life-threatening. A bit like growing up in the Phillips household, although thankfully none of those fucking lunatics had guns. Knives, however, by the gods. Number 3. A man in a maroon-coloured flannel shirt, which had been purchased for purposes of decoration and made principally by some Jewish woman on the east side of New York, rounded a corner. Does that mean he's Jewish, or he just happened to have bought them from Jewish women? It's not quite clear there, is it? Guess we'll find out. Rounded a corner and walked into the middle of the main street of yellow sky. In either hand the man held a long, heavy, blue-black revolver. Often he yelled, and these cries rang through a semblance of a deserted village, shrilly flying over the roofs in a volume that seemed to have no relation to the ordinary vocal strength of a man. It was as if the surrounding stillness formed the arch of a tomb over him. These cries of ferocious challenge rang against walls of silence. And his boots had red tops with gilded imprints, of the kind beloved in winter by little sledging boys on the hillsides of New England. The man's face flamed in a rage begot of whiskey. His eyes, rolling and yet keen for ambush, hunted the still doorways and windows. He walked with the creeping movement of the midnight cat. As it occurred to him, he roared menacing information. The long revolvers in his hands were as easy as straws. They were moved with an electric swiftness. The little fingers of each hand played sometimes in a musician's way. Playing from the low collar of the shirt, the cords of his neck straightened and sank as passion moved him. The only sounds were his terrible invitations. The calm adobes preserved the demeanour at the passing of the small thing in the middle of the street. There was no offer of fight, no offer of fight. The man called to the sky. There were no attractions. He bellowed and fumed and swayed his revolver here and everywhere. The dog of the barkeeper of the Weary Gentleman's Saloon had not appreciated the advance of events. He yet lay dozing in front of his master's door. At sight of the dog, the man paused and raised his revolver humorously. At sight of the man, the dog sprang up and walked diagonally away with a sullen head and growling. The man yelled and the dog broke into a gallop. As it was about to enter an alley, there was a loud noise, a whistling, and something spat the ground directly before it. The dog screamed and, wheeling in terror, galloped headlong in a new direction. Again there was a noise, a whistling, and sand was kicked viciously before it. Fear-stricken, the dog turned and flurried like an animal in a pen. The man stood laughing, his weapons at his hips. Big man picking on a dog, am I right? Motherfucker. But anyway, ultimately, the man was attracted by the closed door of the Weary Gentleman's Saloon. He went to it and, hammering with a revolver, demanded drink. The door remaining imperturbable, he picked up a bit of paper from the walk and nailed it to the framework with a knife. He then turned his back contemptuously upon this popular resort, and, walking to the opposite side of the street and spinning there on his heel, quickly and lithely fired at the bit of paper. He missed it by a half-inch. He swore at himself and went away. Later, he comfortably fusilladed the windows of his most intimate friend. The man was playing with this town. It was a toy for him. But still, there was no offer of fight. The name of Jack Potter, his ancient antagonist, entered his mind, and he concluded that it would be a glad thing if he should go to Potter's house and by bombardment induce him to come out and fight. He moved in the direction of his desire, chanting Apache scalp music. Interesting. When he arrived at it, he was wearing Jewish clothes but chants Apache scalp music. Sounds like something Mama T would do, isn't it? If I knew that kind of music, just say, which I don't. But I'm very fond of Native American traditions and culture, even though I'm a white Jewish witch shaman, hobbit. It is what it is, people are there. Might have been a past life association. When he arrived at it, Potter's house presented the same still, calm front as had the other adobes. Taking up a strategic position, the man howled a challenge. But this house regarded him as might a great stone god. It gave no sign. After a decent wait, the man howled further challenges, mingling with them wonderful epithets. Presently there came the spectacle of a man churning himself into deepest rage over the immobility of a house. He fumed at it as the winter wind attacks a prairie cabin in the north. To the distance there should have gone the sound of a tumult, like the fighting of 200 Mexicans. As necessity bade him, he paused for breath or to reload his revolvers. Chapter 4. Potter and his bride walked sheepishly and with speed. Sometimes they laughed together shamefacedly and low. "Next corner, dear," he said finally. They put forth the efforts of a pair walking bowed against a strong wind. Potter was about to raise a finger to point the first appearance of the new home when, as they circled the corner, they came face to face with a man in a maroon-coloured shirt who was feverishly pushing cartridges into a large revolver. Upon the instant the man dropped this revolver to the ground and, like lightning, whipped another from its holster. The second weapon was aimed at the bridegroom's chest. There was a silence. Potter's mouth seemed to be merely a grave for his tongue. He exhibited an instinct to at once loosen his arm from the woman's grip, and he dropped the bag to the sand. As for the bride, her face had gone as yellow as old cloth. She was a slave to hideous rites, gazing at the apparitional snake. The two men faced each other at a distance of 3 paces. He of the revolver smiled with a new and quiet ferocity. "Tried to sneak up on me," he said. "Tried to sneak up on me." His eyes grew more baleful. As Potter made a slight movement, the man thrust his revolver venomously forward. "No, don't you do it, Jack Potter. Don't you move a finger towards a gun just yet. Don't you move an eyelash. The time has come for me to settle with you, and I'm going to do it my own way and loaf along with no interfering. So if you don't want a gun bent on you, just mind what I tell you." Potter looked at his enemy. "I ain't got no gun on me, Scratchy," he said. "Honest, I ain't." He was stiffening and steadying, but yet somehow at the back of his mind a vision of the Pullman floated, the sea-green figured velvet, the shining brass, silver and glass, the wood that gleamed as darkly brilliant excuse me, as the surface of a pool of oil. Oh, the glory of their marriage, the environment of the new estate. "You know I fight when it comes to fighting, Scratchy Wilson, but I ain't got a gun on me. You'll have to do all the shooting yourself." His enemy's face went livid. He stepped forward and lashed his weapon to and fro before Potter's chest. "Don't you tell me you ain't got no gun on you, you whelp. Don't tell me no lie like that. There ain't a man in Texas ever seen you without no gun. Don't take me for no kid." His eyes blazed with light and his throat worked like a pump. "I ain't taking you for no kid," answered Potter. His heels had not moved an inch backward. "I'm taking you for a fool. I tell you, I ain't got no gun, and I ain't. If you're going to shoot me up, you better begin now. You'll never get a chance like this again." So much enforced reasoning, had told on Wilson's rage. Wilson! That's me throwing in just for comic relief, you understand. He was calmer. If you... Oh, dear goddess. Well, you have to laugh. Oh. If you ain't got a gun, why ain't you got a gun? He sneered. Been to Sunday school? I ain't got a gun because I've just come from San Antone with my wife. I'm married, said Potter. And if I'd thought there was going to be any galoots like you prowling around when I brought my wife home, I'd have had a gun. And don't you forget it. Married, said Scratchy, not at all comprehending. Yes, married. I'm married, said Potter, distinctly. Married, said Scratchy, seeming for the first time he saw the drooping, drowning woman at the other man's side. No, he said. He was like a creature allowed a glimpse of another world. He moved a pace backward, and his arm with the revolver dropped to his side. Is this the lady? He asked. Yes, this is the lady, answered Potter. There was another period of silence. Wow, said Wilson at last slowly. I suppose it's all off now. It's all off if you say so, Scratchy. You know, I didn't make the trouble. Potter lifted his valise. Well, I low it's off, Jack, said Wilson. He was looking at the ground. Married. He was not a student of chivalry. It was merely that, in the presence of this foreign condition, he was a simple child of the earlier plains. He picked up his starboard revolver and, placing both weapons in their holsters, he went away. His feet made funnel-shaped tracks in the heavy sand. The end. Just see how long the next story is. If it's not too long, we may continue for another hour. And if it's too long, we may not, according to my whims. This one looks longer than the other one, so that's no good. We need another shorty. A shorter story than that one. Dear Goddess. Or maybe we don't. Maybe I can just quit while I'm ahead. Shall I quit while I'm ahead? People of Earth. Oh, F. Fitzgerald. Oh, that's a long one too. The short stories, some of these are remarkably long. Remarkably long. Alright, I've been wanting to read this for a while because I'm a little bit biased because of my previous Jewish preoccupation and obsession when I used to be a Reformed Jew. Technically I still am, just don't practice anymore really. The Hanukkah's coming. I always look forward to Hanukkah. So we're back to one of my personal favourites, Bernhard Malamud. I'll have to change that because I was going to read the next story, but it's too long, People of Earth, and it will grind my gears. So change it to the Jewbird, Bernhard. Malamud. And we'll read that one another time, maybe. Okay, are you ready? 2 stories in one night. Mama T's cooking on gas tonight. Literally. The Jewbird. Yes, it's only a few pages long, so that shall do, people. Could do with a drink of water, but we'll just carry on. The window was open, so the skinny bird flew in. Flappity flap with its frazzled black wings. That's how it goes. It's open, you're in. Closed, you're out. And that's your fate. The bird wearily flapped through the open window of Harry Cohen's top floor apartment on First Avenue near the lower East River. On a rod on the wall hung an escaped canary cage, its door wide open. With this black-type, long-beaked bird, its ruffled head and small eyes crossed a little, making it look like a dissipated crow, landed if not smack on Cohen's thick lamb chop, at least on the table close by. The frozen food salesman was sitting at supper with his wife and young son on a hot August evening a year ago. Cohen, a heavy man with hairy chest and beefy shorts. Edie in skinny yellow shorts and red halter. And their 10-year-old Morris, after her father. Morrie, they called him. A nice kid, though not overly bright. Sounds like my ex-husband. Michael. I don't think he was even a nice kid. I'm being mean now. He might have been a nice enough kid. His mother adored him. Dear goddess. Anyway, we're all in the city after 2 weeks out because Cohen's mother was dying. They had been enjoying Kingston, New York, but drove back when Mama got sick in her flat in the Bronx. Right on the table, said Cohen, putting down his beer glass and swatting at the bird. Son of a bitch. Harry, take care with your language, Edie said, looking at Morrie, who watched every move. The bird cawed hoarsely, and with a flap of its bedraggled wings, feathers tufted this way and that, rose heavily to the top of the open kitchen door, where it perched, staring down. Gewalt! A pogrom! It's a talking bird, said Edie in astonishment. In Jewish, said Morrie. Wise guy, muttered Cohen. He gnawed on his chop, then put down the bone. So, if you can talk, say what's your business. What do you want here? If you can't spare a lamb chop, said the bird, I'll settle for a piece of herring with a crust of bread. You can't live on your nerve forever. This ain't a restaurant, Cohen replied. All I'm asking is what brings you to this address. The window was open, the bird sighed, adding after a moment, I'm running, I'm flying, but I'm also running? From whom? Asked Edie with interest. Anti-Semites. Anti-Semites? They all said. That's from whom? What kind of anti-Semites bother a bird? Edie asked. Any kind, said the bird, also including eagles, vultures and hawks. And once in a while some crows will take your eyes out. But aren't you a crow? Me? I'm a Jewbird. Cohen laughed heartily. What do you mean by that? The bird began davening. I do a more exaggerated version of that when I do my mosh on my Friday night's dance. But there is a history, people of Earth. Oh, you have to laugh. Well, it's hard to break old habits. He prayed without... I'm so naughty. He prayed without book or tullet, but with passion. Edie bowed her head, though not Cohen. Maury rocked back and forth with the prayer, looking up with one wide-open eye. When the prayer was done, Cohen remarked, "No hat, no phylacteries. I'm an old radical." "You're sure you're not some kind of ghost or dybbuk?" "Not a dybbuk," answered the bird, "though one of my relatives had such an experience once. It's all over now, thanks God. They freed her from a former lover, a crazy, jealous man. Now she's the mother of 2 wonderful children." "Birds?" Cohen asked slyly. "Why not?" "What kind of birds?" "Like me, Jewbirds." Cohen tipped back in his chair and guffawed. "That's a big laugh. I've heard of a Jew fish, but not a Jew bird." "Were once removed?" The bird rested on one skinny leg, then on the other. "Please, could you spare maybe a piece of herring with a small crust of bread?" Edie got up from the table. "What are you doing?" Cohen asked her. "I'll clear the dishes." Cohen turned to the bird. "So what's your name, if you don't mind saying?" "Call me Schwartz." "He might be an old Jew changed into a bird by somebody," said Edie, removing the plate. "Are you?" asked Harry, lighting the cigar. "Who knows?" answered Schwartz. "Does God tell us everything?" I'm saying it the German way. Schwartz. It's actually Schwartz. I just realised that. Oh, dear goddess. Well, there is a history there too, people of Earth. Unfortunately, in my case, a little bit too much of a fucking history, but I can't, it's not my fault that I'm born of a German mother. Just saying. It's not my fault that I'm born of a German mother who was a fucking narcissist psychopath who survived Nazi Germany. Doesn't make me a Nazi or her a Nazi, although technically, you know, because she was educated by that regime, she was therefore technically a Nazi, but let's not go on technicalities, shall we, people of Earth? For the love of all the gods. That's why I'm a little bit screwball though. Can you tell? Anyway, who knows? Answered Schwartz, the Yiddish way. Does God tell us everything? Maury got up on his chair. What kind of herring? He asked the bird in excitement. Get down, Maury, or you'll fall, ordered Cohen. If you haven't got any matches, I'll take schmaltz, said Schwartz. All we have is marinated with slices of onion in a jar, said Edie. If you'll open for me the jar, I'll eat marinated. Do you have also, if you don't mind, a piece of rye bread, the spitz? Edie thought she had. Feed him out on the balcony, Cohen said. He spoke to the bird. After that, take off. Schwartz closed both bird eyes. I'm tired, and it's a long way. Which direction are you headed, north or south? Schwartz, barely lifting his wings, shrugged. You don't know where you're going? Where there's charity, I'll go. Let him stay, Papa, said Maury. He's only a bird. So stay the night, Cohen said, but no longer. In the morning, Cohen ordered the bird out of the house, but Maury cried, so Schwartz stayed for a while. Maury was still on vacation from school, and his friends were away. He was lonely, and Edie enjoyed the fun he had, playing with the bird. He's no trouble at all, she told Cohen, and besides, his appetite is very small. What'll you do when he makes dirty? He flies across the street in a tree when he makes dirty, and if nobody passes below, who notices? Unlike Charlie, who makes dirty on me all day long, every day, and if she was up at night as well. Ah, but Charlie's her own person. Charlie is a rainbow lorikeet, and Charlie does whatever Charlie wants. Who can blame Charlie? So, all good, said Cohen, but I'm dead set against it. I warn you, he ain't going to stay here long. What have you got against the poor bird? Poor bird, my ass. He's a foxy bastard. He thinks he's a Jew. What difference does it make what he thinks? A Jewbird. What a chutzpah. One chutzpah means temerity or cheek or nerve or audaciousness, what you see every Friday night when Mama T walks into the club with her corset and a flower and her Jack Daniels and her fucking attitude. It's the definition of chutzpah, babies. Sometimes it gets amped up a little bit, sometimes it gets toned down a little bit, but I'm a chutzpah from way back when. Courage, corazon, guts, sometimes a bit of glory too, just saying. When the Mama T's glorious, it's a thing to behold. Wow, we all have fun together, don't we, my beautiful friends? We all have so much fun together. Good, clean, sweet love and fun. A Jewbird, what a chutzpah. One false move and he's out on his drumsticks. At Cohen's insistence, Schwartz lived on the balcony in a new wooden birdhouse Edie had bought him. Oh, isn't that sweet? I like Edie and Maury. With many thanks, said Schwartz, though I'd rather have a human roof over my head. You know how it is at my age. I like the warm, the windows, the smell of cooking. I would also be glad to see, once in a while, the Jewish Morning Journal and have now and then a schnapps, because it's kind of a brandy, because it helps my breathing, thanks God. But whatever you give me, you won't hear complaints. However, when Cohen brought home a bird feeder full of dried corn, Schwartz said, "Impossible." Cohen was annoyed. What's the matter, cross eyes? Is your life getting too good for you? Are you forgetting what it means to be a migratory? I'll bet a hell of a lot of crows you happen to be acquainted with, Jews or otherwise, would give their eye teeth to eat this corn. Schwartz did not answer. What can you say to a grobby young? In other words, a fat boy. Not for my digestion, he later explained to Edie. Cramps. Herring is better even if it makes you thirsty. At least rainwater doesn't cost anything. He laughed sadly in breathy calls. And herring, thanks to Edie, who knew where to shop, was what Schwartz got, with an occasional piece of potato pancake, which in our culture is called latka, and even a bit of soup meat when Cohen wasn't looking. When school began in September, Before Cohen would once again suggest giving the bird the boot, Edie prevailed on him to wait a little while until Maury adjusted. To deprive him right now might hurt his schoolwork, and you know what trouble we had last year. So okay, but sooner or later the bird goes. That I promise you. Schwartz, though nobody had asked him, took on full responsibility for Maury's performance in school. In return for favours granted, when he was let in for an hour or two at night, he spent most of his time overseeing the boys' lessons. He sat on top of the dresser near Maury's desk as he laboriously wrote out his homework. Maury was a restless type, and Schwartz gently kept him to his studies. He also listened to him practice his screechy violin, taking a few minutes off now and then to rest his ears in the bathroom. And they afterwards played dominoes. The boy was an indifferent checkers player, and it was impossible to teach him chess. When he was sick, Schwartz read him comic books, though he personally disliked them. But Maggie's work improved in... Sorry, Maggie's, dear God. But Maury's work. Maury. I hear Maggie Tabara just died, 87. Sort of bad things, is it? 87. Anyway, rest in peace, Maggie Tabara, wherever you be. But Maury's work improved in school, and even his violin teacher admitted his playing was better. Edie gave Schwartz credit for these improvements, though the bird pooh-poohed them. Yet he was proud there was nothing lower than C- on Maury's report card, and on Edie's insistence celebrated with a little schnapps. If he keeps up like this, Cohen said, I'll get him in an Ivy League college for sure. Oh, I hope so, sighed Edie. But Schwartz shook his head. He's a good boy. You don't have to worry. He won't be a shicker or a wife-beater. A shicker is a drunk. A shicker is a drunk. He won't be a shicker or a wife-beater. God forbid. But a scholar he'll never be, if you know what I mean, although maybe a good mechanic. It's no disgrace in these times. If I were you, Cohen said, angered, I'd keep my big snoot out of other people's private business. Harry, please, said Edie. My goddamn patience is wearing out. That cross-eyes butts into everything. Though he wasn't exactly a welcome guest in the house, Schwartz gained a few ounces, although he did not improve in appearance. He looked bedraggled as ever, his feathers unkempt, as though he had just flown out of a snowstorm. He spent, he admitted, little time taking care of himself. Too much to think about. Maybe that's Charlie's problem. I notice she's missing even more feathers right round the back now. Whatever condition she's labouring under, she's actually getting worse. It's a worry, people of Earth. And some days she's like just very withdrawn and kind of sits very quietly in a cage. So I guess that's bird for not feeling all that well. But most days she's okay, like apart from the constant shitting, which she's always done. Most days she's quite perky. So I don't know what to do, whether I should worry or whether I should just relax. I go through periods where I worry a lot about her, and then other periods when I think, meh, she's survived fine and she's happy and she's eating and drinking and shitting and being playful and enjoying the garden, so why worry? But anyway, that feather thing, that feather plucking, it's out of control. And just gets plenty of companionship with me, so It can't all just be anxiety, you know. Anyway, all my pets have something not quite right with them. They've all been a bit mad. Every single one of them. Why is that? Is it me? Do I make all my pets mad, or do all my pets make me mad? It's probably a feedback loop. Anyway. So, he looked bedraggled as ever, his feathers unkempt, as though he had flown out of a snowstorm. He spent, he admitted, but little time taking care of himself, too much to think about. Also outside plumbing, he told Edie. Still there was more glow to his eyes, so that though Cohen went on calling him cross-eyes, he said it less emphatically. Liking his situation, Schwartz tried tactfully to stay out of Cohen's way, but one night when Edie was at the movies and Maury was taking a hot shower, the frozen food salesman began a quarrel with the bird. For Christ's sake, why don't you wash yourself sometimes? Why must you always stink like a dead fish? Mr. Cohen, if you'll pardon me, if somebody eats garlic, he will smell from garlic. I eat herring 3 times a day. Feed me flowers, and I will smell like flowers. Who's obligated to feed you anything at all? You're lucky to get herring. Excuse me, I'm not complaining, said the bird. You're complaining. What's more, said Cohen, even from out on the balcony, I can hear you snoring away like a pig. It keeps me awake at night. Snoring, said Schwartz, isn't a crime, thanks God. All in all, you're a goddamn pest and a freeloader. Next thing you want to sleep in bed next to my wife. Mr. Cohen, said Schwartz, on this, rest assured, a bird is a bird. So you say, but how do I know you're a bird and not some kind of a goddamn devil? If I was a devil, you would know already, and I don't mean because your son's good marks. Shut up, you bastard bird, shouted Cohen. Gruppe Jung, cried Schwartz, rising to the tips of his talons, his long wings outstretched. Cohen was about to lunge for the bird's scrawny neck, but Maury came out of the bathroom, and for the rest of the evening, until Schwartz's bedtime on the balcony, there was pretended peace. But the quarrel had deeply disturbed Schwartz, and he slept badly. His snoring woke him, and awake, he was fearful of what would become of him. Wanting to stay out of Cohen's way, he kept to the birdhouse as much as possible. Cramped by it, he paced back and forth on the balcony ledge. Or sat on the birdhouse roof, staring into space. In the evenings, while overseeing Maury's lessons, he often fell asleep. Awakening, he nervously hopped around, exploring the 4 corners of the room. He spent much time in Maury's closet and carefully examined his bureau drawers when they were left open, and once when he found a large paper bag on the floor, Schwartz poked his way into it to investigate what possibilities were. The boy was amused to see the bird in the paper bag. He wants to build a nest, he said to his mother. Edie, sensing Schwartz's unhappiness, spoke to him quietly. Maybe if you did some of the things my husband wants you would get along better with him. Give me a for instance, Schwartz said. Like take a bath, for instance? I'm too old for baths, said the bird. My feathers fall out without baths. He says you have a bad smell? Everybody smells. Some people smell because of their thoughts or because who they are. My bad smell comes from the food I eat. What does his come from? I better not ask him, or it might make him mad, said Edie. In late November, Schwartz froze on the balcony in the fog and cold, and especially on rainy days, he awoke with stiff joints and could barely move his wings. Already he felt twinges of rheumatism. He would have liked to spend more time in the warm house, particularly when Maury was in school and Cohen at work. But though Edie was good-hearted and might have sneaked him in the morning just to thaw out, he was afraid to ask her. In the meantime, Cohen, who had been reading articles about the migration of birds, came out on the balcony one night after work when Edie was in the kitchen preparing pot roast, and, peeking into the birdhouse, warned Schwartz to be on his way soon if he knew what was good for him. Time to hit the flyways. Mr. Cohen, why do you hate me so much? Asked the bird. What did I do to you? Because you're an A1 troublemaker. That's why. What's more, who ever heard of a Jewbird? Now scat, or it's open war. But Schwartz stubbornly refused to depart. So Cohen embarked on a campaign of harassing him, meanwhile hiding it from Edie and Maury. Maury hated violence, and Cohen didn't want to leave a bad impression. He thought maybe if he played dirty tricks on the bird, he would fly off without being physically kicked out. The vacation was over. Let him make his easy living off the fat of somebody else's land. Cohen worried about the effect of the bird's departure on Maury's schooling, but decided to take the chance. First, because the bird now seemed to have the knack of studying, give the black bird bastard credit, and second, because Schwartz was driving him bats by being there always, even in his dreams. The frozen food salesman began his campaign against the bird by mixing watery cat food with the herring slices in Schwartz's dish. He also blew up and popped numerous paper bags outside the birdhouse as the bird slept, and when he had got Schwartz good and nervous, though not enough to leave, he brought a full-grown cat into the house, supposedly a gift for little Maury, who had always wanted a pussy. The cat never stopped springing up at Schwartz whenever he saw him, one day managing to claw out several of his tail feathers. And even at lesson time, when the cat was usually excluded from Maury's room, though somehow or other he quickly found his way at the end of the lesson, Schwartz was desperately fearful of his life and flew from pinnacle to pinnacle, light fixture to clothes tree to door top, in order to elude the beast's wet jaws. He's a bit of a coward, that Jewbird, because my Charlie is such a fierce warrior goddess bird that all three cats were utterly terrified of her. She used to even beat up Beauregard. In fact, the last day of his life, she attacked him, which was distressing to both Beauregard and myself. But what can you do? It's Birdie Num Num logic. It was her final goodbye. So, I don't understand why this bird was such a coward. That's all I have to say about that. But anyway, maybe it was smaller than a rainbow lorikeet though. in which case it's understandable. Canaries will have a heart attack if a cat comes near them. You know, probably. It's probably a gecko. Probably budgerigars too. Once when the bird complained to Edie how hazardous his existence was, she said, "Be patient, Mr. Schwartz. When the cat gets to know you better, he won't try to catch you any more. When he stops trying, we will both be in paradise," Schwartz answered. "Do me a favour and get rid of him. He makes my whole life worry. I'm losing feathers like a tree loses leaves." "I'm awfully sorry, but Maury likes the pussy and sleeps with it." What could Schwartz do? He worried but came to no decision, being afraid to leave. So he ate the herring garnished with cat food, tried hard not to hear the paper bags bursting like firecrackers outside the birdhouse at night, and lived terror-stricken closer to the ceiling than the floor as the cat, his tail flicking endlessly, watched him. Weeks went by. Then on the day after Cohen's mother had died in her flat in the Bronx, when Maury came home with a 0 on an arithmetic test, Cohen, enraged, waited until Edie had taken the boy to his violin lesson, then openly attacked the bird. He chased him with a broom on the balcony, and Schwartz frantically flew back and forth, finally escaping into his birdhouse. Cohen triumphantly reached in and, grabbing both skinny legs, dragged the bird out, cawing loudly, his wings wildly beating. He whirled the bird around and around his head, but Schwartz just freaking out a little bit because I keep hearing the sound, and I just got a wave of energy just then, so I'm trying to discern if it's spiritual, if it really is just a lizard crawling around the walls. It happens quite regularly in this house. But Schwartz, as he moved in circles, managed to swoop down and catch Cohen's nose in his beak and hung on for dear life. Cohen cried out in great pain, punched the bird with his fist, and tugging at its legs with all his might, pulled his nose free. Again he swung the Yorking Schwartz around until the bird grew dizzy, then with a furious heave flung him into the night. Schwartz sank like stone into the street. Cohen then tossed the birdhouse and feeder after him, listening at the ledge until they crashed on the sidewalk below. For a full hour, broom in hand, his heart palpitating and nose throbbing with pain, Cohen waited for Schwartz to return, but the broken-hearted bird didn't. "That's the end of that dirty bastard," the salesman thought, and went in. Edie and Maury had come home. "Look," said Cohen, pointing to his bloody nose, swollen 3 times its normal size, "what that son of a bitchy bird did. It's a permanent scar." "Where is he now?" Edie asked, frightened. "I threw him out and he flew away. Good riddance." Nobody said no, though Edie touched a handkerchief to her eyes, and Maury rapidly tried the 9 times table and found he knew approximately half. In the spring, when the winter snow had melted, the boy, moved by memory, wandered in the neighbourhood looking for Schwartz. He found a dead blackbird in a small lot near the river, his 2 wings broken neck twisted, and both bird eyes plucked clean. "What did it to you, Mr. Schwartz?" Murray wept. "Anti-Semites," Edie said later. The end. So they were two quite dark, kind of depressing stories, weren't they? But most of the stories have been kind of dark, a little bit surrealist and quirky. But yes, I've read that Jewbird story before. I remembered it halfway in, and it's very well done. Very well done. Yes, the anti-Semites got him in the end. And really it was his Jewish landlord that got him, set him loose so that the anti-Semites could get him. Fucking cosmic twist, isn't it? How life can be really fucking unfair. Never mind. Moving on from my post-traumatic growth. Have a beautiful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the space-time continuum. Be kind. If you can't be kind, just leave people the fuck alone and go be awesome somewhere else, and that way you get to all live in equanimity and some semblance of harmony, and there's room for everyone, you know. If you don't like someone, you don't have to like them, but there's no need to be vicious. Just go along your merry way and find your tribe and find your vibe and express it in wonderful creative ways with art and music and literature, and make something of yourself. Don't be a bum or a Nazi or a fascist or a globalist or a bioengineered genocider, for example. I kind of club them all into the same kind of intersectionality, lump of morass of anti-humanity and putrescence, but that's just me, people of Earth. Shine bright like a diamond, be the jewel of your own resolution. Love the ones who love you back wholeheartedly and romantic and passionately, and if you haven't got that, love your friends. Allow your friends to love you in honouring and upholding ways like I experienced with my beautiful ones last night. I just realised Burst is playing tonight. It's 8:54 p.m, it's 9, they're probably just about to start. I'm too tired to go dancing a second night. So, Burst, if any of you watch my videos, have a beautiful performance. I'll catch up with you another time in the space-time continuum, no doubt. And be of good cheer, have no fear, live your best lives while taking no shit. And that's all I got to say about that. Bye for now, planet of Earth.